Welcome to the Geek to Geek podcast, where we're back from kind of the brink of death for me, but hopefully not for BJ.
I hope you don't die. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm Void. I'm here with my co-host Beej.
I'm not dead yet.
This is good. Today we are talking about not being sick, even though that's been a lot of my life lately. We're talking about Pokemon because I was sick and I got Pokemon Sun and I blasted through it in like 5 days because I was basically just resting in my bed. So we had another topic and then we did spur of the moment change, and we're going to talk about Pokemon because it's like forefront of my mind right now.
Yeah, which makes sense with you being that sick and just sitting there playing it. It's kind of like how I was during August when I was just binging Mr. Robot. That's all I could think about.
Nice. Yeah, so let's jump into like kind of just a really quick history. So what Pokemon games have we played is kind of where I wanted to start. I think I've played a lot more than you, so you can go first.
Yeah, you have played a ton more than I have, I think. And I've always considered myself a Pokemon fan. Like, I love the series. I love the critters. I love so much about it. But I've only ever played Pokemon Blue when it first came out in the United States, and Omega Ruby this year, where those are the only two that I've ever bought and played. I've played snippets of the others, some of the spin-offs, but in terms of the main series, like actually sitting down, like I'm going to play this game, just Blue and Omega Ruby.
Okay, cool. So for me, I've played a bunch of them, but like before I say which ones I played, I want to talk about the naming conventions because I heard Rob on another Geek Teak podcast, which is the Comic Box. If you're not listening to it, go look for it because it's really good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
He mentioned something about like a Pokemon comic book, and then he said the title of it, and he's like, is that really the title? That's crazy. So if you've never played a Pokemon game before, when people talk about playing Pokemon Red and Blue, they don't actually mean they're playing two games. It's that each Pokemon game is divided by like generation. So the games come in pairs where they have slightly different Pokemon and maybe some slight differences, but it's usually just like there's some unique Pokemon to each game. So Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow are all basically the same game. They're all from like the same generation. But when you talk about it, like if you don't know the exact game you played, or if you're just talking in generalities, you would say, I played Pokemon Red, Blue, or Red, Blue, Yellow. Yep. So I think Rob said something about like a comic coming out for Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So those are two separate games. But yeah, once you start putting things together, they sound like really long titles.
Yeah, they kind of sound like Kingdom Hearts titles, but they're really not.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I played the Red, Blue, Yellow generation. I played Pokemon Red, and then when Yellow came out with like the Pikachu that would follow you around, I played that one also. And then I played Gold and Silver, because I was still pretty big into Pokemon then. And
now,
then,
that was second generation, right? That was the one where they first introduced new Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I was still pretty into it at the time. And then I kind of aged out of it for a little bit, which I know not everybody ages out of Pokemon. There are some people who've played every single generation along the way. But I didn't play Ruby Sapphire. I think I tried Diamond and Pearl, but I don't remember ever owning it, and I definitely did not beat it. I might have just like watched a friend play it or something. I didn't play Black and White either. I just totally skipped that one. So then I came back to the series with X and Y, which wasn't that long ago. That was just a couple years ago. And I played Pokemon Y, and I really liked it, but it still felt like it still had... like, Pokemon hasn't changed all that much. It was still hanging on to so much of the things from the original game, and it felt like it could use another round of, like, modern conveniences added on. So when Pokemon, the remasters of Ruby and Sapphire came out, which are Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, my daughter really wanted to get into Pokemon, so I picked her up the Alpha Sapphire, and I picked up Omega Ruby, and we played through that one together. But it didn't even feel as modern as X and Y because it's a remaster, you know? Like, they tried to tack things on, but yeah, it's not nearly as good as X and Y is.
See, and I thought that it was, even though it was a remaster of the Ruby and Sapphire generation, I thought that it was going to be, it was even more advanced, because I never played X and Y. So that one of the reasons my friends and I got it. Well, my friends at work and I were playing it, and we were doing it online in our spare time, that kind of thing. We were playing it together. So we got it because it was the newest generation, like the newest game, even though it was the same generation as X and Y. I didn't realize that X and Y were actually more advanced in terms of the iterations and technologies and just the conveniences that it had in it.
Yeah, I mean, the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire are remasters, and X and Y were built from the ground up for the 3DS. So yeah, X and Y is definitely a better game. It feels more modern. But then I just played Pokemon Sun and Moon. I picked up Sun because I know my daughter wants Moon for Christmas, and she'll probably be getting that. So, parenting, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked it. I'll talk about it a little bit more once we get further into the episode. But yeah, I just blasted through Pokemon Sun. It was like a 26-hour playthrough. It was pretty quick for a JRPG, And I think the last couple Pokemon games I played were right in there, like 20 to 25 hours total.
Yeah, depending on how much you spend, catching things and leveling up and trying to get the perfect team before you go through rather than the post-game content.
Yeah, but that's my history. So I want to talk a little bit about like the generations of Pokemon, because it's interesting to me. Like, Pokemon hasn't changed that much. And I know this is one of the complaints we had when we were talking about Dragon Quest and that we could never get into it. Like, Dragon Quest doesn't really change a whole lot. It very, very slowly just increments tiny things about the game. But you can play the latest Dragon Quest game and then go back to the first one, and it's not all that different. Pokemon is kind of the same way. Like, you can go play Pokemon Red on an original Game Boy, and then you can come and play Pokemon Sun that just came out last week, and it's basically the same game.
And you're going to know how to play it. That you're going to be able to pick it up even 20 years later. And that's one thing that happened with me is I was able to dive directly in, that I felt like I was a 16-year-old playing Pokemon Blue for the first time.
Yeah, and I mean, the modern conveniences on it are really nice, but it's also kind of like, I know for some people, it's kind of like a comfort food, right? Like, they know the game, they love the game, they don't want it to change much, they just want the same thing, just iterated a little bit. So that's what they give you. And I felt like with Pokemon Sun, they finally got to the point where the modern conveniences really started helping things. It looks like they finally did a full like UI pass on it. So a lot of the things that used to take you a bunch of button presses are now on like just it's quicker to get to them, or they're more obvious in the menu, or you can do things like set favorite items, or and I'm not sure exactly which ones are part of this game and which ones came before it because I haven't played every generation.
Right.
But even things just like when you're in a battle, there's one button and it automatically just takes you to all of your pokeballs to select, so you don't have to like dive into your inventory and hunt for which pokeball you want to throw at a Pokemon to catch it.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and things like that. I really like the fact that modern conveniences are getting put into the game. Yeah, I don't know. Pokemon is just kind of interesting like that. It doesn't change a whole lot, but it still has this giant following. And part of it is just, it's a really cute game,
They are. And there's always something funny in them. I mean, they're very humorous. They don't take themselves very seriously. And so as you're going through the story, there's just ridiculousness and just absurdity that happens. And so it's always fun to go through them. I just like looking on the internet and seeing screenshots that people are taking of their 3DSs right now and seeing completely out of context weird things that characters say.
Yes, that's really funny. I caught some of them when I was playing the game, and if I wasn't sick, I definitely would have taken some screenshots and put them on Twitter, but yeah, it's funny to see people coming up with them. So have you played any of the spin-off Pokemon games?
I loved Pokemon Snap. Like, I never owned Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64. Like, I loved it, though, because my family used to do a lot of shopping at Sam's Club, and there was always, during this generation when it came out, there was always Pokemon Snap on a display Nintendo 64. And while my parents were shopping and getting, all of this bulk groceries and laundry detergent, just all of this stuff that a kid or teenager or whoever, however I was, just hated, I would stand and play Pokemon Snap and wait my turn just to be able to take pictures of these and travel down the river and see what I could find in the bushes. And it was just so much fun. And it has that memory for me of, just kind of whimsical. This is silly and doesn't have a point, but oh my goodness, it's so much fun to take pictures of these Pokemon.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know what Pokemon Snap is, it was an N64 game where you were like in a cart or on a raft or whatever. You were basically on rails and you would go from point A to point B in a level, and you were just equipped with a camera and you had to take pictures of Pokemon and you would get points based on it. So you could spin around 360 degrees. You couldn't actually control the speed of the cart or anything like that, but you could like throw things out to lure Pokemon, or you could try to like make Pokemon interact with each other by like tossing, I think there was like food and like incense, and I don't remember everything, but
stuff like that. Like just things is all I remember.
Yeah, but it was really fun. I was really hoping that they would make a sequel for the Wii U, because they have the Wii, like they finally had a controller that would be perfect for it. The gamepad?
Yeah, that would be absolutely perfect for it. And I'd heard, and I don't know if it was true because I haven't played it, that there was going to be kind of a mini game like that in Sun and Moon. Was there anything like that?
Yeah, but it's so minor that it's not even close. I mean, it's not anywhere close to Pokemon Snap. There are a couple points that you can like flip into this Poke Finder picture mode, and you can use your 3DS to like aim and take a picture of a Pokemon, but it's not, I don't know, it's not a competition, it's not on rails, there's not a whole lot of interaction. It's just like aim and then snap like 6 pictures and then you're done.
Yeah, so it's not the same.
No, not at all. And then Pokemon Go, we talked about that a lot earlier this year. Are you still playing it all?
Not even a little. I deleted it off my phone after the first few weeks. I hadn't logged in weeks, and then it was just like, okay, I'm bored with this. This isn't. It was cool. It's a great idea, but I haven't been interested even a little.
Oh, okay.
Have you?
I haven't been playing a lot, but my wife and my kids have. Like, they're still really into it. And part of it is, I figured out a way to pair their iPads with my wife's phone, like flip her phone into hotspot mode, so that basically they would have GPS, even though they don't have GPS. So they all go out together and they get like Pokestops and gyms and stuff, and they have a lot of fun.
Okay, so, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's turned into an activity to get the kids out of the house, especially if I'm working on stuff, which is why I don't do it as much. But it's usually like, you know, if the kids are going stir crazy during the day, she can get them out of the house and go do some Pokemon Go.
Which is great. That's something I don't have. And in my area, I don't have people to play with. None of my friends around here are doing that kind of thing. And I know it's still going on in larger areas and people with groups and families like you. That's not part of my circle right now.
Yeah, that's understandable. I'm still kind of holding out hope that they're going to come through and add some patches that'll make it more fun for me. I mean, the main thing that would make it better is if, like, there were more Pokestops around, you know? I still don't have any without driving somewhere. And that's a huge thing. So that's why it works for them. Like, if they need to get out of the house, you know, they hop in the car, they go drive over to somewhere with a bunch of Pokestops, and they can wander around. But casually just doing it on a walk or from home or whatever, like, I don't have any Pokestops within range, which is really what put a stop to it for me.
And I understand that. I'm within just a few feet of a Pokestop. Like, I can go to the end of the road and maybe half a block and get to a Pokestop and a gym. But that kind of lost its appeal whenever it was just so short. I'm like, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to walk these feet. There it is. Okay, here's the gym. I'm going to go back home, wait 15 minutes. And I just got bored.
Yeah, it's better if you can do it more organically. Or like if you had a commute that went downtown or to a major metropolitan area where they have a ton of Pokestops, like if you could just casually do it on your way to work, that would be different too. I do know some of my friends who live in cities, they still play it all the time because they have Pokestops everywhere. They walk all the time because they're downtown in the city. So yeah, I mean, it makes more sense for certain groups of people. But yeah, living in the suburbs where I do, it's harder to play it for me.
Although I do go work at the library a lot these days, and the library is a Pokestop. So I wonder if just keeping my phone on and just spinning the Pokestop over and over again would be fun, just to see what was coming around, throw some lures on it and see what I could get.
You'd at least get Pokeballs so that you could play it consistently, which is good.
That's true. I may try that.
You should, if you do report back. But yeah, besides that, I was also thinking about the TV show. Like, I watched the TV show a ton when I was a kid. I don't even remember how old I was when it came out, but I was definitely still a kid, and Pokemon had just gotten huge. So I watched, you know, Ash and Pikachu like every day, I want to say, after school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Did you ever get into it? Or were you? You might have been a little too old.
I never got into it at all. I know I have friends who did, and they're just crazy about it. I watched a few episodes here and there. I still giggle with Team Rocket and Meowth and just this ridiculous stuff that was going on there, and I can appreciate it, but it was never my thing. That was just something that just passed me by, that it's not even a disdain kind of thing. It's like, oh, that was for children. Ooh, no, I'm too mature for that. Just like, no, it's there.
Yeah. I kind of thought
I liked the games.
I thought you might have missed it by a year or two, but I was surprised that, well, my kids, we have them set up with Netflix and stuff on their own. You can, like, on your account, you know, you can make individual users. So I have my kids set up on kid users so that they don't get into content that they shouldn't. But I was really surprised to find out that Pokemon is still going on. Like, it's an active show still, and my kids watch it. So it's kind of random. They don't always watch it in order, but like, I've seen I think there's a Pokemon Sun and Moon that just started coming out, but they were watching, I want to say, Pokemon X and Y. So it's like they might have been making the show the entire time and just going generation to generation, but it's still Ash and it's still Pikachu.
Is it really? I didn't know that. I actually thought they had changed characters. I did not know it was still Ash and Pikachu.
Yeah, I thought they would have changed too, but I guess, you have a main character that everybody loves. Why not just drag them through every single storyline, even if it does feel shoehorned in? Because, kids will age out of it. Like, any one group of kids is probably going to only see like one region, maybe two, before they age out of it and start watching other stuff. So I wonder if that was their thinking behind it. But I was surprised.
Because that was one thing that I'd actually heard about children's TV recently, is that generally the age group that ages out of children's TV is about 3 seasons. And so that's why a lot of kids' TV shows don't go for very long, is that the audience that they're targeting who grew up with it they progress with the series, but then they go to a different one. And when it's already to the point where the storyline, the characters and everything have gotten to, 3-ish, 4-ish seasons, then the new viewers, they don't care about that. They haven't been invested. So there needs to be a new show for the younger generation coming up, which is why so many of them push forward with new kinds of shows like Power Rangers, with new Pokemon shows like that. That's why they constantly restart, and you never get like a 10 or 15 season series of a children's show.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. It's really interesting. It's definitely a different type of TV than anything else when you're targeting kids. But yeah, I'm sure it's something along those lines that must have happened with the show. But it's still going on, and that was kind of cool to see and kind of surprising at the same time. And then the other thing I would ask you about was the card game. Did you get into the Pokemon trading card game at all?
Oh my goodness, I love the card game.
Okay.
My friends, in high school, I think I was 14 years old when I got into trading card games and collectible card games with Magic the Gathering. Like pretty much everybody else who has been part of, the geek community. And when the Pokemon game came out, we were trying pretty much everything, and we loved it. My entire gaming group, all of us just fell in love with Pokemon. And I want to say it was 2 expansions that we played really hardcore with it, and then we kind of moved on to something else. It may have been WWE Raw Deal at that point, something, but we played really hardcore Pokemon for a while, and we're collectors looking for different foil versions, just all of this. But we loved the Pokemon game. It was very well put together, at least initially. The mechanics were simple enough that they were just fun to play, and that we could actually, compete with one another instead of just, one person dominating the other all the time. It was really nice.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So for me, it was like, like I said, I'm a few years younger than you. So I think that it was really big, but I don't remember actually playing a whole lot. I remember collecting them and wanting more card packs and opening them up. And I remember like trading cards with my friends, and I remember taking them to school and looking at other people's cards and thinking it was really cool.
Yep.
But I probably actually played the game, like, I don't know, less than 10 times. It was much more about getting the cards, collecting the cards, trading them, because I want to say it was like elementary or middle school for me, somewhere around there. It wasn't quite the gameplay mechanics for us. It was just like, oh, Pokemon, cool.
And I know that I was 16 when that happened, because I remember on my birthday, I went and got my driver's license on my 16th birthday, came back to school in my car, and played Pokemon outside the computer science room at the picnic table with my buddies, being so happy that I could finally stay after school instead of riding the bus.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it was fun to do. Like, Pokemon was just huge everywhere for a few years there, and we were in the age group that got to experience that. And it's like, Pokemon has never gotten small. It's always been a big thing. But we were kind of in that big boom of it right at the beginning, which was cool to see. But yeah, I mean, my kids still know enough about it without me ever pushing it on them. They know Pokemon, they know Pikachu, they know the key ones. They think it's interesting. They watch the show. They want the new game. Like, this is without me ever trying to push Pokemon on them or even really playing like any of the Pokemon games around them. Yep. It was just them finding it through whatever kid sources and toys and all the ways that marketers get to kids. Like, it's still working for Pokemon. I guarantee it. Yeah.
Now, when you were younger, did you ever do the marketing stuff? Well, not the marketing stuff. When you were younger, did you ever do the merchandise and things like that? Because I still have a Pokeball that I got from Burger King with a gold Charizard card in it that I still keep and that I won't get rid of. And I had a friend give me a stuffed Pikachu for Christmas that I still keep, that I've kept on my desk and things like that. It's packed away right now, but just these, Pokemon collectibles. Do you have anything like that? Did you ever get into the stuff aspect of it? Because I see a lot of people still doing that now, and I don't have a lot of it, but stuff like that was really cool and has some nostalgia for me.
Yeah, I did. I remember that Burger King Pokeball gold card thing. I had one for a while, but I don't.
Was it your Bulbasaur?
I don't remember which one it was. It was whichever one I got at Burger King that one time. I didn't go collect them or anything, but I don't have a lot of merchandise now. I think I had more when I was a kid, but my wife and I have gotten pretty good about like purging anything that we don't need. So I've gotten rid of lots and lots of, you and I were just talking about this the other day. Like, I don't have a lot of junk around my house. I don't have things that I don't use. I have a couple tubs of books that I want to keep forever that are important to me. And I have one tub of like old game consoles and games. And that's about it for my whole storage. And I know that you have collected more. You said you have a couple rooms of storage.
Oh, I've got a couple of rooms of stuff I've got to purge that's full of DVDs, Star Wars toys, just trinkety stuff that I've picked up over the years that where, it's not a hoarder kind of thing. It's just living in different places. Stuff gets boxed up, cleaning out your attic when you move out of your parents' house, that kind of stuff that I've never been able to get rid of.
Yeah, we've kind of purged every time we've moved, and we moved apartments together a bunch, and then when we moved into this house, we really did like one last, let's get rid of a ton of stuff. So I don't have any like merch around anymore.
Yeah.
The only like little tiny toys that I have or anything, I basically say it has to fit on my desk, and I have to be comfortable, like if I'm working a full-time job, to take it to work and put on my desk. If it doesn't meet those requirements, I don't need the little knickknacks, Like
Makes
all
sense.
of these collector's editions and things that have giant posters or that come with like a helmet or like an actual real life weapon.
Yes.
Like none of that is for me. Like I'm never going to pick those up because it doesn't meet those requirements, right? Like I have a little plush Koopa Troopa that I really like. I kept that at work for a while. I have like a couple yo-yos that I used to take when I worked full time because it's something to do with your hands when you're thinking. And I do yo-yo just kind of like on the side for fun. And I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, you didn't. And my thought immediately went to, you need to record some stuff so that we can post it online to show everybody your yo-yo skills.
I haven't done it as much lately because usually now if I need a break, I just take a break because I've been working from home as a freelancer for like 3 years. So I can just get up from my desk and go do something. Whereas when you're in an office and you need a mental break, you have to still like hang out around your desk and look like you're thinking.
Right.
So yeah, I did the yo-yo a lot more when I was doing that.
And one thing that I was thinking about when you said the helmet stuff is like, I'm going to have to get used to doing that. I know this is a tangent, but I have a giant clone trooper helmet that actually goes over your head with a voice changer that one of my students got me. And just looking at the amount of stuff that I brought home whenever I quit my job and cleaned out that office, that I'm having to figure out now what to do with all of the knickknacks and trinkets I've gotten over the years from students when they want to give me something. So it's like, I cannot keep this giant clone trooper helmet on my desk or anywhere in my office. I don't know what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, it feels good once you actually like get a lot of that stuff out of your life, and then you just don't have to deal with it as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, that's a tangent. I guess the other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit was just Sun and Moon. Like, do you have any questions? I know I talked a little bit up at the top.
Well, I've seen a little bit about like the ride Pokemon and the HMs going away and stuff like that, because that's my biggest pet peeve with the series when I was going through Omega Ruby, is having to keep my team just built up around the number of abilities I needed to move around the world. And it really got annoying to be able to do that I had like 3 Pokemon that I liked using to fight with, and then I had basically half of my team was garbage because I hadn't picked up ones that could keep all the HMs on it. And so I couldn't do anything really. I didn't feel like I was able to customize anything because it was all utility. Have they fixed that with the way that they were removing HMs?
Yeah, it's a lot better. Ride Pokemon are really nice because you just like summon them basically from nothing, and they do all the things that HMs used to. So HMs don't even exist anymore. You don't put them on any of your Pokemon. It doesn't junk up your team or make you have a utility Pokemon that's just taking up a slot. So you can actually build a team of 6 that you like, and then you just call these ride Pokemon as needed.
Awesome. Yeah, that's been my main thing. And I think you said, or maybe it's in the notes, I can't even remember where I saw it, that there's an actual story this time, because I couldn't tell you what was going on in Omega Ruby. It's like people are trying to destroy the land. They're trying to bring back these legendary Pokemon to like blow things up and like bring the water back. And I'm just like, I don't care. And I don't even know what's going on in Pokemon Sun and Moon, but I think you've said that there's an actual story, right?
Yeah, there's more of a story than there ever really has been, and I liked it because of that. This is my favorite Pokemon game, and it's a combination of having a story that I actually paid attention to and cared about a little bit. And I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say I like really cared about it and it affected me on a deep emotional level. It's not a
Final Fantasy story.
No, not at all. But it is good, and it's really good for a Pokemon game. And the basic premise is that you are going around to all these island challenges. So there's no gyms in this one. It's you exploring the series of islands that you live on, which are obviously based off of like Hawaii.
Right.
Or Pacific Islands kind of thing. And you go around to them all, and each one has a bunch of captains on it. And you have to do their trials, and they're not like gyms. It's not like you just face off against a bunch of people that have the same type of Pokemon until you get up to the leader, and then you defeat them and you win. That doesn't exist in this game, and I think it's better for it. The trials are a lot more varied. Some of them you have to like go find certain items, and it's kind of like a little bit of a fetch quest in a confined area. Some of them are ones where you have to go take pictures with that Pokefinder thing, so it's almost like a little bit of that like hunting for Pokemon Snap type of thing, but everybody has slightly different trials. I mean, there's even one where like there's one where you have to like watch these Pokemon dancing, and then you watch twice and you have to spot the difference between them. Like that's one of the trials. But the thing is, there are enough trials. It's not like 8 gyms like normal. It's like 12 trials, but there's actually a bunch of other ones that aren't official trials, but they're things that you have to do that are kind of off the beaten path. It made for a much more interesting flow to the game that's not so predictable. And I liked that a lot.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the story is good too. The story is about there's still a team that kind of does bad stuff. And then there's another group that's like conservationists in the area. And it has to do with those two and like Ultra Beasts and I don't know, other stuff. But it made a lot more sense than any of the other Pokemon games I've played. So I liked it more for that. But yeah, I mean, besides the story, there are other things. I mentioned some of them, like Pokeballs being a quick select, a lot of like little UI improvements that just make the game easier to play, and like less clicks, less button presses between different things. And then like after you've seen a Pokemon once or faced it once, it makes it so that next time you face them, you can see all of your moves, and it tells you if it will be effective, not effective at all, or super effective. So that was actually a huge thing for me, because I mean, like when I played Red and Blue, I had it all memorized because there weren't that many different types, and Pokemon weren't really multi-type. But now, in the last couple, there are so many different types of Pokemon that are classified, and I don't know which ones are strong against which are weak against which. Yep. And some of them have like, not even some of them, a lot of them have 2 types, so you have like a Psychic Water or like a Dark Steel, or like, I don't know all the type ones that actually go together, but keeping that in my head, I just don't anymore. So having this has made a huge difference, because you can look through your team if it's a Pokemon you've faced before and see, oh, this person, they have a couple moves that are super effective against that. I'll put out this Pokemon. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's a big quality of life improvement for me, because just like you said, I can't memorize all of those. I don't want to memorize all of those, where I just want it to tell me which one to use. And I know that's like not like, I don't know. I know that's not exactly good gaming etiquette. I know that may make me seem like I want my handheld so much, but I don't care about that kind of thing anymore. I want to play the game instead of trying to just get the minutia of it for one fight.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that a lot about the game. And then the other thing was that it's actually harder than the other Pokemon games I've played, and I like that. It's not a hard game, right? Like, it wasn't difficult to beat. It's still a Pokemon game. It's still Pokemon, yeah. And you can always just kind of level up a little bit and then just destroy everything if you need to do it that way. But I felt like it was more of a challenge than any of the other ones I played. And I liked that about it a lot. So all of those things together made Pokemon Sun and Moon, because since they're basically the same, but I played Sun. Yeah. It's my favorite Pokemon game that I've ever played, easily, no question.
That's awesome. I will eventually Gamefly this, I think, just to experience it and give it a shot. That's kind of how I'm feeling about a lot of stuff right now. I'm kind of like you I'm kind of like you in that regard, where I want to play them, but I don't think I want to spend the money on them. So I think a Gamefly subscription for a couple of months will let me experience it and then move on. And I think Sun and Moon are going to be one of the big games I do that for, just to play for a couple of days and send back, just to see the new stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you were going to do that, or if you were going to hold out for, there's a rumored version coming for the Nintendo Switch later.
Yeah.
Like if you were interested in just waiting and picking up that one.
I thought about it whenever you had told me, but honestly, the more that Jennifer and I have talked, and since I'm currently, just trying to start freelancing, I don't think I'm going to be able to afford a Switch when it comes out. But so I will most likely be Gameflying the 3DS version, since I've already got a 2DS around. Same reason I'm not going to be getting a PS4 playing Final Fantasy 15, and I'll be living vicariously through you with that.
Yeah, no problem.
Which, by the way, curious. As we're recording this, does Final Fantasy 15 come out today?
It does. It is preloaded on my PS4, and right after we record this, I'm going to edit this, and then I'm going to play Final Fantasy until, I don't know. I'm going to play a lot of it, basically.
Yeah, basically you're not sleeping tonight. So
well, I'm still sick. I will sleep. I will be a responsible adult. But yeah, I'm going to play a lot of Final Fantasy 15.
Awesome.
The other thing, just one last thing. Do you do any of the post-game content in Pokemon? Because I really don't.
Very little. That's the kind of thing that when I get bored, then I'm like, I want to play a video game. I wonder what I can do. I'll go hatch an egg. I'll go hunt for Pokemon in certain areas and try to fill out a particular area of my Pokedex. But it's not something that I ever want to finish. I don't have that completionist tendency anymore, where I think there's 721 Pokemon. I will never get that done. I have friends who have finished the Pokedex in every single Pokemon game, and good for them. They love doing that. But the kind of post-game content to get you coming back, that it's repetitive, and that's one thing that just turns me off of video games in general.
Yeah, me too. I can't do the repetitive nature of it. And I know there are people who they will beat the game, and that's just the start. They go and they capture things so that they can have like the optimal team. They level them up to 100. They look at like the stats that differ every time you catch a Pokemon, and they want the best ones to start with, and then they raise it all the way up, and then they take those to tournaments. Yeah, they like breed them and they take them to tournaments, because there are actual official Pokemon tournaments. Like none of that is me at all.
Nope.
But I find it interesting that people do, and every once in a while I'll read an article or two about it, because I find it fascinating. That's about it for me.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's there for people who really like it. That's awesome, and I love subcultures like that. It's like we've talked about with the speed running, that I'm glad that exists and brings people joy. It's just not what brings me joy.
Yeah, and that's fine. Cool. Well, I'm glad that we finally talked about Pokemon. I thought it was a good time since Sun and Moon just came out. Besides that, it's the holiday season. If you guys want to get a holiday present for us, go leave us a review or a rating on iTunes. It's kind of dumb. You have to actually search as if you've never heard of the podcast before to look us up, and then you can leave a review. But I see every single one that gets left, and I appreciate everyone. And you guys who have done one are amazing. And if you would do one, or if you don't, you're still amazing just for listening. But still, if you want to get us a holiday present, rate a review on iTunes.
That would be awesome.
We have Geeky Offer of the Week. You have something new, right?
Yeah, I've got the Audible trial set up, and I know a lot of you guys have heard about this on other podcasts, but I wanted to do this for us because we absolutely love audiobooks, as you've probably heard. So you can go to audibletrial.com/geek2geekcast and get a free audiobook. And this week, because we're talking about Pokemon, I really wanted to let you guys know about The Furies of Calderon by Jim Butcher. It's the first in the Codex Alera books, which is essentially a fantasy novel, a fantasy series that uses Pokemon as its base idea. I've read part of it, but I think you have actually read the entire series, right?
Yeah, I read the whole series, and it's good, and it consistently gets better as it goes on, too. But yeah, if you like the idea of, like, kind of magic based around almost Pokemon type, they're Furies, but, it's kind of Pokemon. It's a really cool fantasy setting.
Yeah, so it's got, like, elemental spirits that bond with people, and then when they end up fighting, they give different abilities, and they're based on elements. They each have their strengths and weaknesses that follow them around, and and little Furies that follow them around. I think he wrote it to see if he could write a book series based around Pokemon, kind of like Brent Weeks did with Magic the Gathering and the Lightbringer series. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, then head to audibletrial.com/geek2geekcast and get the Furies of Calderon, or pretty much any other audiobook that you want. I love audiobooks, so you should too.
Awesome. And with that, it's probably time for our weekly geekery. If you don't know, it's where we talk about what we've been geeking out this week. It's actually been 2 weeks since we recorded, so we have a lot of stuff. Did I tell you I've been playing the Arkham Horror LCG?
You sent me a picture of it and said you were going to, but I never heard anything else about it.
Okay, it's really fun. It's in the vein of like the Lord of the Rings LCG. If you guys don't know, if you haven't listened to our board game episodes, LCG is a living card game, which is different from a collectible card game. In a living card game, every single pack of cards you pick up, you know exactly what's in it, so you don't have to spend $1 million to get into the game. You can always know exactly what you're buying. So this is a brand new one, which is why I jumped on it, and it's in the vein of the Lord of the Rings one, which is co-op. So it's a co-op against the deck and kind of against the scenario. Right. And I find those really interesting because I like co-op games. The other thing is it can be played solo, which is also why I picked it up, because Lord of the Rings I've played with a bunch of different groups, but I have a lot to dig into solo. And I thought that it might be better to get into this one because I could get in at the beginning and then keep up to date with it. Whereas Lord of the Rings, I have a lot of it, but I'm behind. Like I've never really caught up to where they are with releasing stuff. And LCGs are really great if you can get in at the beginning, because then every couple months they'll put out like, it's almost like a booster pack, but it's usually like a chapter pack or a story pack or something, and it costs you like $10 to $14, and it'll have a bunch of new scenarios and new cards and maybe some new characters in it, things like that. But yeah, this one is you against the scenario, and it's Lovecraftian horror. And it's
Which
really,
I'm
really
amazed
fun.
that you love this.
Why? I told you that I like all of the settings from horror things. I just don't like the genre.
Oh, the main reason being that it's Lovecraftian horror, because in general, it's very slow going. And I'm just kind of amazed that that's something that you like. You may like the beginning of The Secret World then, because it's basically all Lovecraftian.
But it's a game that I determine the pace, you know? Like, I don't have to wait for a slow reveal. I don't have to be like, why is this character doing a stupid thing? Because I'm controlling the entire game. Like,
that's true.
You know, I told you, I like the settings in a lot of horror. I just don't like the way that the genre plays it out in stories. And this is a game that I get to interact with, and it's a cool setting. So I like it a lot. Arkham Horror LCG has been fun. And then along those lines, I wanted to bring up, because you said you gave me so much like grief about the horror episode. I found a new podcast called Lore that's all about folklore, and it's a lot of stuff that's creepy, but it's all based on real life. And I like it a lot. And I don't know if I would consider it straight up horror, but it's one of the things that's close to the horror genre, and I really like it. So I wanted to flag it for you to be like, look, see, I like it when it's done well, because it's folklore. It's stories from history. It's people talking about, you know, things being haunted or like weird experiences they've had. Sometimes it's just a look back at like creepy parts of history, but altogether, it's a really good podcast. So if you haven't heard of Lore, I would check it out.
I haven't, but I'm all about some folklore. That was something I really thought about specializing in when I was in undergrad, to go into grad school for specifically American folklore. And I really, really think it's cool.
Cool. And then I also finished, really quick, I finished The Crown. I think I was almost done last time we talked, and my wife and I finished it, and it was amazing, and we immediately wanted more. And Netflix basically said if it did well with season 1, they have 6 more seasons planned out to kind of cover the entire life of the Queen. So
wow.
I want more right now, but I have to wait, which is sad. But yeah, I'm not going to try to sell it again because I did last time I mentioned it, but The Crown is really good. So if you do Netflix originals at all and you're looking for new content, go check out The Crown.
I've heard so many good things about it, not just from you, that it's supposed to be really good.
Cool. And then I know one that we both have on ours is Overwatch. We've both been playing Overwatch.
this new mode, the arcade mode, has really revitalized the game for me, where I was getting bored and kind of put off by the community in Overwatch, that even when I would turn off the chat and the voice chat, that I was still getting annoyed by the way, just being around that many people and getting frustrated. And the new arcade mode has completely removed that for me. That especially the 3v3 elimination mode, I don't know which ones you've been playing the most, but I like being able to go in and play it very quickly, that I'm in and out sometimes in under 5 minutes, to be able to just go in and do that. Even though it's a team-based shooter, it's a purely deathmatch option, and it changes the game enough that I'm really enjoying it right now.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of the 1v1, but the 3v3 is also good.
I'm so bad at 1v1, like just so bad.
It's fun, though, because you're right. They changed it up. They made a new map specifically for these modes, which I think really shows, because the existing maps wouldn't work for a deathmatch. So they made a much smaller map with a lot more like interesting sight lines and just kind of like levels to it and things that really work with these new modes. So they specifically made a map for these new modes. And yeah, it's just fun. I've been having fun with the arcade mode. I mean, I never stopped playing Overwatch, but I've been playing more in the last week week or two because of the arcade mode, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it's my break during the day. I'll either take a Daredevil break or an Overwatch break whenever my brain hurts from working. So I'm really enjoying it.
But you're still watching Daredevil, right?
Yes, I have one episode left in season 1, and I'm very excited to see what happens at the end of season 1 and move into season 2. And I am so happy that he still, at this point, and spoilers, if you guys just give me just a couple of minutes here, if you haven't watched Daredevil, it's not a big spoiler, but he still doesn't have his suit. I'm so excited because I love the black suit with the mask, that I'm glad he's not in the red Daredevil suit that I know he gets. I'm sure he's going to get it this episode, but I love the grittiness and realism that comes in. He's just this dude in a mask. And so I'm glad to have at least had the whole first season with that aesthetic that I like so much.
Yeah, I want to know what you think once the first season's done. And then I
really don't know how they're going to wrap it up. That's what I'm curious about with one episode left. It's like there's so many things that need to be wrapped up. And in 1 hour, I'm kind of skeptical that they're going to be able to do anything in an hour. So we'll see.
I did warn you that season 1 is really a good setup for season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else have you been up to?
I'm still reading The Blood Mirror. I'm absolutely adoring it. Getting back into reading has been wonderful for me. It's the only book that I've read really this year that's made me want to stop doing other things and just lie on my couch and read. And that is something that I've not been able to do. So I really appreciate it. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it right now, maybe 3/4. And I really, really, really like it. It's definitely a setup for the last book, like you said, but I love what they're doing with the world. And I just want to know more about the backstory and see where they're going with it. And now that Rogue One is like 2 weeks away, I am mega excited. I'm starting to build up that Star Wars hype that I've been holding off on. So once I finish up The Blood Mirror, I'm going to go back and read Catalyst and Ahsoka, finish up Star Wars Rebels Season 2 and 3, and really dig in before Rogue One comes out, because I tend to get really intense about things that I like, and then I don't want to say I burn out on them, but then I just kind of lose that intensity where it's just kind of a low boil and just see stuff. And with Jennifer and I trying to do like you did with purging a lot of our stuff and trinkets and just be less consumery than we used to be, I'm not so interested in the toys this year, because that was what was big when I was a kid, is that I was collecting all of this Star Wars stuff. And this year I'm looking at the media way more than the stuff. Last year it was stuff. I wanted lightsabers and Black Series toys and just all of these cool things to sit around my house. And I've got those now from Force Awakens. So now right this second, I'm looking at Catalyst and Ahsoka and Rebels as being what I'm really looking forward to. I want to immerse myself in the world again, more than I want to immerse myself in the world just way more than the franchise merchandising.
Yeah, and that's like for me, Star Wars, I'm always excited about it, but I've never gotten into the merchandising very much. I mean, like I liked toys when I was a kid, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I basically am in it for the world and the story. So I pick up every extended universe and book, all the new expanded ones. So I've read Ahsoka. I'm about halfway through Catalyst right now, which is good. It's like a direct prequel to Rogue One, and I'm excited about Rogue One. I'm all caught up on Star Wars Rebels, so all the things you want to catch back up on, I'm kind of up to date with because I never really stop with Star Wars. I always try to stay up to date with it because I love the world of Star Wars. It's also why I pick up every Star Wars video game because it adds onto the world. It tells a story, which is good.
Okay, then let me ask you a question with that. This is not really a tangent because it goes in with Weekly Geekery, but Battlefield right now is around $15 on Origin. Is it worth picking up?
Battlefront? Star Wars Battlefront?
Yeah, Battlefront. Sorry, yeah. Star Wars Battlefront is $15 on Origin right now. Is it worth picking up?
It doesn't add anything to the story, if that's what you're asking.
Is it fun? Because I've heard that it gets very repetitive. And is it worth $15, or at least to, grab it close to Christmas when it goes maybe on even more sale than that?
It is fun, but it also does get repetitive. I mean, it's just a straight up multiplayer game. Like, I wish that they had a single player campaign or something in there. I would have felt like it was more worth the money. For $15, probably. I kind of regret buying it at full price when I did last year. When the next one comes out, because they have announced there's another one coming, it'll depend on if it has a single player campaign. If there's a single player campaign in there, I will probably pick it up day one. And if there's not, then I might just skip it because I was really let down by the pure multiplayer experience of this one. But yeah, I mean, you like the Star Wars universe. For $15, it's really cool to just kind of be part of that universe for a while.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking about. And I really love single-player campaigns of Star Wars games. That The Force Unleashed is my favorite Star Wars game because it let me feel for the first time, like really feel like I was in the Star Wars universe. That when you're in there with Starkiller, it is wonderful and it's very immersive. And that's kind of what I would love out of something like Battlefront.
Well, and the cool thing now is that now that Disney owns it and they got rid of the old extended universe and they said, we're resetting, these are the things that are canon, and there wasn't a whole lot left when they did that. They said everything from now on that comes out that is Star Wars will officially be canon. So every video game, every comic book, like everything is truly part of the Star Wars story now, whereas before they were kind of random offshoots and George Lucas could overwrite them at any time or just ignore them.
And I always got really annoyed by that. That's what I've been doing this week, is pretty much watching Daredevil reading and just getting excited about Star Wars.
Okay, so the last thing for me, the only other thing I've really been doing while I've been sick, besides playing Pokemon, is watch the Genius game. Did you look at this at all after I told you how much I was enjoying it?
I did not. I need to.
Okay, it's a game show, but it's kind of a reality TV show.
Yeah.
But it's from Korea. And it's all subtitled because it's not in the US. It's not been dubbed or anything. It's amazing. Like it's one of the best game shows and reality TV show combos that I've ever watched. And it's because they take all of these modern board game design ideas and rip off a lot of the good parts and they remix them into games for this show. And the games become, it's like the game design itself is super, super intelligent because they design the games so that you have to use enough like logic and intelligence to understand the basics, but almost all of the games require social engineering. And there are a ton of other players, so you'll have to form alliances, but you can't just keep one alliance for the whole game because sometimes you get randomly assigned to teams, sometimes you get randomly assigned to like a different color in like a bidding game or I don't even know. There are so many different games and all of them are so well designed. And like every time that I watch it and you see what the main game reveal is for the day, I'm just riveted to the explanation of the game design itself. So if you like game design at all, or if you like modern board games, and like any of the cool things the game designers are doing these days, I highly suggest you go check out the Genius game. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes. The whole first season is subtitled and it's on YouTube. And then the other ones, season 2 through 4, I think, they're kind of buried on somebody's Tumblr that links to a Daily Motion that's mislabeled. It's like one of those, you really have to dig down into the internet to find it. So I'll link to the first episode of the first season, because if you have that, you can watch the whole first season on YouTube the way that I did. But I was talking on Twitter, I was like, I love this, I wish there was more. And one of my friends said, no one else has ever told me that they've even heard of this show. Here's a link to all of the other seasons. So I've been watching the other ones too. I finished season 1 and season 2, and my wife and I are into season 3 now also. But yeah, my wife is into it also. Like, it's not just about the game design. It's also about the people. It's about how they interact. It's about how all of it ties together in this kind of amazing package. You just have to be okay with subtitles. But I promise, if you can just kind of be okay with subtitles, it is worth watching.
Oh, yeah, I don't care about subtitles at all. Like, I'm fine with them when they're there. I have to sit down, obviously, to be able to read and can't keep it on in the background.
Yeah, it's one that you actually have to pay attention to because it's subtitled, but that's okay because it's a really good show. It doesn't really waste your time at all.
That's different when it comes to reality TV these days, that a lot of it does feel like it's wasting my time.
Yeah, they never will show anything that's just people acting up to just act up. If there are people who are like legitimately upset because they got stabbed in the back, it's because it's a part of the game and it directly ties into that game that day, you know? Things like that. Like, they never show stuff that's superfluous just to make drama out of it. Yeah, which is very American thing. When, you know, our style.
And I hate that Jennifer and I have talked in the past about like Big Brother. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but I used to watch it with my parents when I lived at home. And one of the things that when Jennifer and I got together, she always said about it was that they should change the name from Big Brother to Conspiratorial Whispering. And it was just so funny to me because that's really what it was. It was manufactured drama and then people just conspiratorially whispering to one another in a corner. Like, that's what it became.
Yeah, no, I kind of hate reality TV, which is why this is also surprising. Because, like I said, it's a game show, but it also has reality TV elements to it because of the people interactions. But I mean, the closest that I get to reality TV these days are like MasterChef. But not even American MasterChef because that's edited.
It's Australia, isn't it?
Yeah, I watched the Australian version, and I should probably check out some of the other ones because I know there's a Canadian one and there's like a UK one, but it's a totally different thing when you're listening to like the other countries because they don't edit it the same way an American TV show would. You know, American TV show, it's all about drama and being mad at people, and in other countries, a lot of the time it's about getting along and having fun, and it just makes for better TV. Like, their reality TV is so different from American reality TV. So that's probably another reason that this is coming out of Korea and it's good, right? If they made this in America, they could edit it and they could put it together and they could design the games in a way that would make it not fun.
Yeah, and that's the reason I don't watch the American Kitchen Nightmares or anything like that anymore, because it's just manufactured drama. And then I go watch the British one and I was like, oh, he's legitimately trying to help people who are down on their luck. I like this. And I don't like the mean-spiritedness of American reality TV most of the time. I don't like that spectacle.
Yes. So if I've convinced at least one of you to check out the Genius game, I will consider this week a success because it's a really good show.
Yay, success.
I think that's about it for this week. You can write to us with comments, suggestions, or feedback. Our email address, as always, is geek2geekcast@gmail.com, or reach us on Twitter at geek2geekcast. We also have the longer discussion threads on our subreddit at reddit.com/r/geek2geekcast.
And if you want to get email updates about our network's podcast, you can sign up at geek2geekcast.net. Tell us what shows you want updates about, and we do try to post new threads about each episode in the subreddit.
Yeah, I blog almost daily at agreenmushroom.com, and you can find me at grnmushroom. That's green mushroom without the E's on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter as @Professor Beej, and I host the Geek Fitness Health Hacks podcast that lives at geekfitness.net.
We've been Void and Beej with your Geek to Geek podcast. That'll do it for this week. See you next week, geeks.
Bye, geeks!